All right, welcome everybody. Good to see you again this month. So, this month we're going to talk about the Baroque period. And you know what they say at Baroque period? If it ain't Baroque, don't fix it. All right, I'm sorry. Bad dad joke. I know. All right, so what is the Baroque period? It's a period of Western art, music, and architecture in Europe between the mid 1600s to the 1700s. Right? Now, why do I say a period of art, architecture, and music? Things do not happen in a vacuum, right? So when I talk about different Western music periods, I like to talk about the whole thing because the mental ideas and what we were working on at the time, they all kind of correlate, they go together, right? So we're going to talk about some of the main reasons or some of the main things that happen during the Baroque period. So, historical and cultural events that happened both in Europe and here in the Americas. So, 1607, Jamestown was founded. That was first town here in the United States, or what would become the United States. 1611, King James Bible. That was the first time the Bible was translated into English, right? 1610, Galileo confirms the Earth revolves around the sun. Yay, Galileo! All right. We're not the center of the universe anymore. I'm sorry. All right, 1618 to 1648, 30-year war in Europe. 1643 to 1715, Louis XIV reigns in France. 1687, Newton, principle of Mathematica. Okay, he wrote a big essay or really a book on mathematics. 1692, witchcraft trials in Salem, Massachusetts. Massachusetts. I cannot say that. Massachusetts. Sorry. All right. So again, important dates both in Europe and here. 1615 to 1715 to 1774. Louis XV reigns in France, and in between 1740 and 1786, Frederick the Great is the reigns in Prussia. So here, those are some of the historical events. Now, here's some of the arts and letters events. Shakespeare writes Hamlet. Okay. Cervantes in Spain writes Don Quixote. Between 1612 and 1615, Rubens paints Descent of the Cross, which we're going to look at that. Okay. 1623, Bernini sculpts David slaying Goliath. It's a little different than Michelangelo's Goliath. David, sorry. Such a really interesting piece. 1630, Puccini, Mars and Venus. We're going to look at that piece too. 1659, Rembrandt, self-portrait. 1667, Milton, Paradise Lost. Okay, we're going to skip here. And, really cool one. 1626, Swift writes Gulliver Travels. Many of you have read that book or seen the movie or heard of it, right? So it's pretty old. It's Baroque time. In music, we have the first true opera, 1607, Monteverdi writes Orfeos. And 1642, Monteverdi again, the coronation of Popea, Porcel, Dido and Aeneas. Okay, Cornelli, trio sonata in minor. Bach, one of the main composers of the time, and we're going to talk about him, writes organ fugue in G minor. Bach again, the Brandenburg concertos. We're going to listen to number 5. Vivaldi writes Primavera. Bach again writes Cantata. And Handel writes The Messiah. The Messiah is an oratorio, and we're going to look at that one too. All right, so what is this period? It is bizarre, flamboyant, and ornamented. That is the main idea that you have to remember when you're looking at anything from the Baroque period. It is grandiose, bigger than life, very ornamental, very large, very moving. It means a style that fills the space, canvas, stone, sound with action and movement. You're gonna look at a couple of paintings and a couple of architectural pieces. So you can see really what I mean. The whole space is just filled. It's ornamented. It's almost too much for the brain at one time, right? In art, dramatic potential of color, depth, contrast of light and darkness. Chiaro scuro, light, dark. Okay. In music, very ornamental melodies, almost sometimes difficult to hear because there's so much going on. One basic mood. If it's happy, it's happy. If it's sad, it's sad. Rhythm and dynamic stay the same, constant all the way through. So a piece that is fast always stays fast. A piece that is slow stays slow. A piece that is loud stays loud. A piece that is soft stays soft. You don't see big dynamic changes until we get to the classical period and then really grow when you get into the romantic period that we talked about last month. Yeah, last month. So that's when you really hear those big changes in dynamics. In the Baroque, not so much. Okay. On architecture, get very ornamental, very grandiose. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of these things. All right, Versailles in France. That is the palace of the Louis, both the 14th and the 15th. Okay, and as if you can look, you see it is very large, very grandiose. All up here, you can see, although you probably cannot see it well in this picture, there's a lot of statues. It is very even on one side. Whatever happens on one side happens on the other. You notice it's equal. The grounds are huge, and there are a lot of um, designs. Many of the gardens have statues, so that you walk through and you see beautiful statues. Greek um, looking statues. So it's very full, right? Now here's one: Maria Antoinette's bedroom. I don't know how she slept in that thing, because man, that is just loaded. I mean, it's all gold gilded, right? It is very bright, very ornamented. If you look, I mean, there is simply no space left open, right? I can only imagine the only reason she could sleep there is because at night it was dark. Because otherwise, man, that's just a load to the eye. This is Mr. Louis himself out here, right? Yeah, that's her bed. So, she only had a little picture of the guy. Smart girl. I like her. All right. Although she lost her head. Sorry. All right. Art. This is Paul Rubens' Descent from the Cross. As you can see, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot going on in this picture, right? You have a lot of people trying to get the Christ off the cross. Here's what we call chiaroscuro, light and darkness. There's a lot of darkness that pulls your eyes right into that bright area that almost glows, right? A lot of color. That is very specific to the Baroque period. Okay, a lot of movement and a lot of contrast between darkness and light, which makes you focus your eyes towards something specifically. Just like in the Renaissance, we start seeing less um, religious themes, and we start seeing more non-religious themes. And this is a scene by Poussin, or Poussin, he's French, Mars and Venus. Again, it's talking about the mythological Greek gods. And again, you see a lot of contrast between darkness and light, a lot of movement, a lot of action. Okay. All right. So in Baroque music, same idea. Very ornamented, one basic mood, rhythm stays constant. Okay. So when we listen to it, I want you to think of what instruments do I hear? What is the mood of this piece? What is the dynamic? Is it loud, soft, tempo, fast or slow? Well, first let's talk about Mr. Bach himself. All right, Jonathan Sebastian Bach. Excuse me, Johann Sebastian Bach. He will be mad at me. All right, he was born about 1685, I want to say, yeah, and died about 1750. Now, what's really cool about the whole Bach family is that they were a family of composers, a family of musicians. His father was a musician. I believe his grandfather was a musician. Bach's sons become musicians later on. So why is this guy so important? Well, he really took the ideas of the Baroque period and just blew them up. Okay, and we're going to look and talk about a couple of ideas why. Okay, he was not only known as as a composer. Well, actually, in his time, he really wasn't known as a composer as much as a musician and an organist, and was something else. Okay. But later on, after his death, is when he's really becomes known as really one of the greatest, if not the greatest, composer of all times. Okay. Now, one of the things that Bach was really big at was, let me see if I can move this. Sorry, something. We'll leave it up here for now. Something called figure bass. Figure bass was a, if you think of shorthand writing, similar idea for music. A lot of composers at the time used this, but Bach really was the inventor of it. And this is why many musicians would say he was our first jazzer. You know, if you look here on the bottom, okay, what was first? Let's talk about what was figure bass. Figure bass, they will give you the lead or the bass part, and you see these little numbers. It tells you what chord you're using and in what position. Now, those of you that have taken music theory, you may recognize this. It tells if it's the chord is in root position, first position, second position, meaning the voicing. If you look over here in this one, you can see that somebody filled them in already, right? So the chord are not just stacked like this one right here. The triad is 1, 2, 3, is just stacked. Over here, you can see how a couple notes are a little off, right? Okay, so what this do in the way people say that it was similar to jazz is one, you will get this, right? So you get to write out the part on top. And a lot of composers would just do it just on the fly, kind of like improvising in jazz, right? So similar idea. So this was one of Bach's greatest inventions, and he really used this a lot. So let's look at some of his music. Again, what are we looking at? Music is very ornamented. You will hear that melody on the concerto. One basic mood that won't change. It's either happy or it's sad. Rhythm is gonna stay the same, constant. It's either gonna be fast or it's gonna be slow. So you tell me. And dynamics. Is it loud? Is it soft? Which one? Now, more thing. Polyphonic texture. What does that mean? A lot of things going on at the same time. So you have one melody, sometimes a second and third melody, and the chords going on. So it's a lot of movement all at once. Remember we talked about movement on the visual arts and on the architecture? Bingo, here we go. Same thing in music. All right, let's listen to it. This is Bach's concerto, Brandenburg Concerto number 5. So what instruments do we hear? Is it fast or is it slow? Do you say this is happy or sad? Now, this instrument right here, that is called a harpsichord. If you notice, the keys are reversed with the piano, black and white. And you can hear the flute has a melody, the first violin has a melody. It says a lot. It's hard to listen almost. going to move on to Mr. George Frederick Handel. Now, here's another German composer. Oh, by the way, in case you missed, Johann Bach is a German composer, right? Frederick Handel is also a German composer, except he's considered more of a British composer. What do you mean, Mr. Garcia? Well, he moved to Britain, to London, and that's where he did most of his work. Okay, he was famous. Bach was more famous for his instrumental music. Okay, Frederick was more famous for his oratorios or vocal music. Now, what is an oratorio? An oratorio is a piece of religious music set or text set to music, but not like it was before. Say in the mass, right? You have short pieces of of music or about religious text, the same religious text, the Kyrie, whatever, set to music, and that was used specific for mass. Now the oratorio will do the same thing. We'll use the Kyrie, the a lesson, the Hallelujah, but this is to be performed in a hall, right? In a it was not so much for the church itself, but more for entertainment. We'll listen to Handel's Messiah, the Hallelujah. Sorry, Hallelujah? Yes. Okay. Now, some of you guys may be familiar with this piece. This piece is heard quite often during Christmas. Many people go to see the Handel Messiah, and they may even participate in it. When I was younger, it was done quite often. You know, would have large choirs, and then some people would bring the actual books, the actual music, and they would sing with the choir. So it was more of an interactive thing. Not often, but sometimes. This is a hallelujah. Okay, again, what instruments do we hear? What voices do we hear? You're going to hear again very ornamented, especially in the melodies, more than one melody happening at the same time. So very complex um, context of music. And again, in the middle, you see the harpsichord. So you say this is sad or happy? Say hallelujah. He has risen. Hallelujah. Hear the timpanis in the back? Boom, 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 boom. And again, here now you start seeing all the different texture. You can hear one melody, another melody, and then somewhere in between, forever and ever. So it's all that going on at the same time. So again, what are the main characteristics of the Baroque period? Flamboyant, very ornamented, right? Filling the space, texture that is very complex. This is very different from the Renaissance, where it was very just simple, but also at the same time throwing back to the Greek style. And it's different from the next period, which is our classical period, where it is more lyrical, the melodies, and also you can start getting to see those crescendos as they go up and they come down. In the Baroque period, if you wanted to kind of get a little louder, you added more voices, you added something else. You you do not hear any crescendos in any of those pieces, right? So now you can know a little bit about the Baroque style. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you, beautiful children, in about a month. Thank you.